Hello, this is Dominic Stoker. This is my third or fourth attempt for my making of audio. I've tried following my script to various degrees of success, but here I am. Initially, I thought designing the armature would be relatively easy. However, I immediately realised that I need to think more carefully in how high, dense and strong I wanted the armature to be. As stated previously, I came across many issues at the start of the build, such as, misshapen limbs, that they were wonky, a lot of unmeasured materials. This forced me to overcome problems that I myself had made, and it caused me to investigate more about potential problems in the future, like limbs and hands falling off. For instance, Marika spoke with me about my uneven hip and torso joint pieces, and now I needed to think more about how I would attach the spine and limbs. What I used in the actual process was I used glue. However, the glue I used, it wasn't the best. I feel like there could have been, certain alternatives. And another thing I wanted to do with the hip and torso was actually use a drill when I create the holes for the joints for the wire. But this idea of having to measure out my from Marika's criticisms, it further emphasised the point of having to accurately measure my measurements. Using the milling putty itself was quite fun and exciting, and I found it quite easy when applying it to the wide limbs. I'd left quite a lot of space in the joints, which led it to be quite weak, so that's why I added the sports tape to strengthen the joints. However, the next aspect of the puppet build, it was, in a way, I quite struggled with because I had quite a skinny character, and trying to pad out and bulk it out, where I felt it was a kind of, it was two things going at each other, really. But it's, I came to a solid conclusion with, adding pipe cleaners. Inaccurate measurements would also come back to haunt me when I used, machines like the steel cutter to create feet for my puppet, so I could, add magnets when I'm animating. So, this time I made sure to use the right sheets of steel. I worked at the boundaries of how much to file down the steel toes, not to make them too small. All to ensure that I didn't repeat the same mistakes I'd already made. Finally, in this initial, armature building, before, the skinning, I added, pipe cleaners. As I said before, like these, I wanted to add strength and bulk to the puppet. In the next few stages of the puppet build, the skinning and, the clothes, my first idea was to skin the character fully in its own fabric and then apply its clothes after. But ironically, I've barely sewn in my entire life. But after a few lessons from Nick in using basic stitches, which I'll give all credit to him. He was a lifesaver there, and obviously Amanda Thomas's wonderful workshop. I was more confident in my ability. I decided to place the seam on the outside and used bright red thread to see where I'd sewn. But I knew that having the seam on the outside and this big bright red fabric going through the back of my puppet, it became quite detriment to the puppet's overall appearance. However, another issue I faced was the pipe cleaners themselves being too bulky. They became more of a hindrance than anything else. So I had to remove them entirely to maintain the puppet's slim physique that I wanted, like the initial designs. But overall, I am quite mixed with the puppet's outcome. I think the skinning and the clothes are quite subpar, and I feel like I could have done a lot more to, make them better, make them more stand out. Like trying to apply creating actual seams, measuring them out, drawing them, designing them. But then I am very proud of the armature itself. As it's fully functional, animating it was, it worked very well. And I did allow myself for the options for replacement assets and sequential props if any did break, and obviously, part of it did. And yes, thank you for listening to my making of video.